Hey guys, it's Mike from Chess Lifestyle, and basically, as you can see on the board in front of you, this is a checkmate. And this came from an opening that is a new opening of mine. I've invented a couple openings in the past, over the years, but this is my most recent creation. And I call it the RIMDIM Indian defense. Now, that will all be explained very soon. But I wanted to basically explain to you how I got to the point of creating an opening novelty on move 4, and how I managed to find a line that actually has a lot of attacking promise and has never ever been played. So, just a disclaimer to start with, it's actually 5:30 in the morning, and the stupid thing is I actually filmed this video already with my friend Kevin, but I had myself on mute for the whole bloody video, so that all basically is for waste. But I'm going to quickly recap what we went through, and I also really want to show you this opening because I'm really proud of creating it, and I also think there are some good lessons to take from it just in terms of how you think about openings and stuff. So basically, in short, I recently have gone on tilt on my main Ponziani master account, where I basically lost 200 rating points, got stuck around 2250 when I was at 2450 a week ago, and I didn't really understand what was happening. But what I worked out was basically I was in a dilemma where I didn't really want to reveal my prep because I've been working a lot on finessing my openings, and I've been going to a bunch of these online chess camps run by Modern Chess, as you all have heard in my last video, and I didn't really want to reveal that to the general public. So in the end, what ended up happening was I would be playing blitz games but not really having my heart properly in it, because I wouldn't want to be revealing my prep, but I still want to be playing my lines, and it was just a mess. So what I decided was, okay, I create a second private secret account that I will use for my prep and use to test my openings, play proper chess, and analyze my games. And then on Ponziani Master, I'll just have some fun and play for the sake of trying to get the highest blitz rating I can, and therefore play the most trappy, godforsaken openings I can that will give me a practical edge in blitz. So I was thinking about, with my black repertoire, what I should play. And I was thinking against e4, I should play the Norwegian, because I think the Norwegian is a really fun opening and it's really tricky. The point being is that on knight c3 we play d5 and we actually hop the knight in, and there's some theory here. And also instead of knight c3, if white plays e5, we actually stick the knight on h5, and the very cool thing is that on bishop e2 we play d6, and this is actually completely fine for black, because if queen takes we play rook g8, and on pawn takes we play queen d5, and there's some theory here as well. So it's really, really sharp, crazy positions, but I feel like if you are on the side with a bit more experience, you're going to do fairly well. So having thought about this, I was then thinking well, okay, if I'm going to be playing g6 move 1 against e4, what if I play g6 move 1 against d4? Because if my opponent plays e4, then I can play knight f6, and what I was even thinking was, well, if I pre-move knight f6, then if my opponent plays e4 and I play knight f6, my opponent will think that I've accidentally played this move, thinking that my opponent would play c4 and play a King's Indian. So then I would have some kind of psychological edge where my opponent thinks, oh, I'm completely crushing the guy, play e5, and then think that he's just completely winning at this point. Instead, I actually know exactly what I'm doing in this line. So I think that's firstly a cool psychological trick. But if white plays c4, which can be expected, we'll play knight f6. And on knight c3, the move I came up with was c6. And the point is that basically what I want to do is I want to bait e4, e5. I want to stick my knight on h5, be really provocative, and see what happens. Now c6 is good for that reason, because It's not d6, which would cover e5. And actually, this move is already an equalizing move. If, let's say, white plays a move like knight f3, we can just play d5, and white isn't able to take the center, and this is a fairly even game. So, in fact, the only way white can play, really, is to play e4. And after e4, I have a novelty on move 4, which is knight a6. And the point of knight a6 is that we want to bait e5, and on knight h5, bishop e2 is the top move, and then we play d6. And the cool thing is, in this line here, we play knight b4. So with knight b4, you know, the knight on a6 has suddenly come into the game, and we're immediately threatening a fork. Now, the very cool thing is that the two defensive moves, queen e2 and queen d1, are just simply not working. Bishop f5 is coming in, knight c2 is a big threat, and even, like, I don't even see a move right now, actually, to be honest. Like, if we move the king, then I'm pretty sure we can play bishop d3 and then play knight c2 anyway. Let me see, actually, on king f1, okay, we can just take on e5, and this is already -5. So okay, I need to perfect my lines and understand like exactly what we're doing a bit better as well. But the point is, I do remember that this queen d1 is not working, and I guess it's for this reason that you know, this is just really crushing, and king f1 is not helping your situation because we're just gaining back the material and we still have a big initiative. So queen e2 might be tried. But the problem is, again, bishop f5, and even if the knight blocks, we can play d5. And this pressure is not going away. And we can take with the queen, and if white really tries to defend with f3, well, then we can take on d4, and we've regained our material, we've still got huge initiative coming in, we're about to get our king safe, and this is, of course, much better for black. So, basically, these moves are not an option. And the only move which can be found by a human is knight f3. Because the idea is that you're going to sack the rook, but you're basically going to go for counterplay here. And the funny thing is that we can go with knight c2 anyway. And the king has a few different options. Now, as you can see on Lead Chess, there's only been one game of this, and this was my game. And actually this game went king e2. And even though I hadn't prepared king e2 as a move, it wasn't too difficult to find these moves. I knew this motif of taking on d4 was a thing, and this is all the correct engine moves. I've already got a slightly better position as black. So, and as you saw, the position finished like this. And I think there was basically a lot of pressure in this game where I think at some point I should have already taken on f5. I think here I can already take the knight, queen takes and bishop takes f5, and you can see how, like, from this position, bishop e6, there's going to be problems for white. So yeah, this king e2 move isn't too good. King d1 is the engine's top choice, and we get this position, and now we see the benefit of c6 because black can play the move queen b6. Now, at this moment, white can either take with the queen or take with the knight. And the cool thing is that taking with the knight is just a complete blunder. Because after taking with the knight, I can go check. And the point is, if the bishop blocks or the king runs to e2, we've got bishop g4 defended by the queen, and it's a fork on the queen. So basically, the king has to move here, in which knight c2 check and king f1, and now we've just got a very simple fork picking up the knight. So the point is knight takes f7 isn't working, and on queen takes f7, king d8, at this moment there's only a single move for like a slightly better position, which is queen f4, and if not queen f4, let's say they take, we can take with check. The king is already, maybe bishop d2 to block makes more sense, but we can take on d6, and I believe the line is to play bishop h6. next. And we're just going to get out our pieces, and it's a wild position, but both sides have weaknesses, and Engine even slightly prefers black. Okay, knight ce4 is an only move, and yeah, the position is a complete mess. But again, I feel like the player with the more experience is definitely going to fare a lot better, and there are so many pitfalls in this line. Things can really go wrong. So I made a little study of this. So to explain why this is called the RIMDIM Indian as well, it's because knights on the rim are dim. So we're putting the knight on the rim on move 4 and somehow getting a very playable position. So this is the thing actually. So here white actually shouldn't take the knight. But if you play bishop e2 and you think your opponent has blundered into this, you're going to take the knight. So this is all very legit, and knight b4 is already equal. And yeah, this is absolutely insane. So knight f3, only move, knight c2. And there's another very cool line, which is basically that on king d1, knight takes. The second best move after queen b6 is to play bishop g4. And this forces the queen to take. But the only issue is that when we take on e5, white will eventually be able to play bishop e3 and consolidate. And this means that black doesn't actually get an advantage from this line. But in another line where white goes king d2, we can take on a1 and play bishop g4 after knight g5. And okay, queen takes f7 is a move, and it's completely wild. The king comes to d7, and black is hang on. Like after takes, I think the move again is bishop h6, and I think black is slightly better in this position. King d3 only move. So again, needs to be explored. But the point is, after bishop g4, if the queen takes, now we can play d takes e5. And white doesn't have bishop e3 to consolidate ever. So white basically has to find this only move d5, in which we play queen d6, and we get the queen over to g6. And again, we've got some play. So yeah, completely wild position. Also, for the record, queen b6 is still possible. But I think... yeah, in this position, because white is the king on d2, white can actually play king d3. And black has to be played very precisely to maintain equality with this d5 move. But yeah, like this whole line is insane. And like the other thing to note is, if not king d1 or king d2 and a move like king f1, then since the knight is not attacked, we're not obliged to take this rook. And here, the strongest move is queen d7. So I should also make a note that king e2, taking on e5, was the way to go, as per my game. But king f1, queen d7 is really nice, because the point is on knight g5, we can just play queen f5, defending, pinning the knight, and creating threats against this king. So this is already significantly better for black. So as you can see, the RIMDIM Indian is definitely a promising opening. What I would recommend is, if any of you play it in Blitz, is you play g6, you pre-move knight f6, because if they play e4, you get knight f6, you play Norwegian. It's brilliant, it's a lot of fun. Definitely look into it. If they play c4, you've got knight f6 as a pre-move, and on knight c3, take some time. Take like 5-10 seconds to play c6, because if you play too quickly and you play c6 instantly, then there's a chance that white will play knight f3 or g3 like as a pre-move, like automatic response, expecting d6 or bishop d7. But when you take your time to play c6, they almost always play e4, trying to refute what you're doing, and then really quickly play knight a6 as if you've just blundered and you forgot to play d6. Because whenever I quickly blitz out knight a6, they quickly blitz out e5. And now it's really important to stop and think, because you don't want to show your hand that you're actually in book. and you want to pretend that you're completely lost, and after, let's say, 10-15 seconds, play knight h5. Even in a 3-minute game, just burn the time for that psychological edge. And then they'll almost always play bishop e2 because they want to exploit the fact that your knight is on this edge, and they'll be expecting you to just drop back to g7. So when you play d6, they're going to think, oh my god, this guy's just complete trash. And then you hit them with knight b4, and then they're going to have a big trouble. They're probably going to spend 30 seconds here, probably find knight f3. You smash out knight c2, and if you know the correct response against these 4 moves, you're sorted. You're sorted. So this is my fun repertoire against the 1d4, and what I really want you guys to take home from this is not necessary to like play this opening, but I was reading a section in How to Study Chess on Your Own by Davorin Kujasevich. And funny side note, actually, I actually emailed him. He's a grandmaster. I emailed the author because I was really inspired by one section in the book, and I was like discussing some ideas whether he had considered perhaps writing a book about a related topic. And I then also mentioned how I was really inspired by one section as well that led to me playing the Immortal game I uploaded 2 videos ago. And I linked him the video, but I said, okay, no pressure to watch it, only if you want to. And he actually replied with a full detailed analysis of his thoughts about the game, and he watched the whole video. So really, really cool guy, and really amazing book as well. But the point I wanted to make actually was, he said something about you want to be curious about chess. You want to really be fascinated about the different possibilities and constantly questioning your understanding. And when you can play a move like knight a6 and the engine is not saying it's +3, then you want to delve into it. And even if, let's say, this doesn't align with your repertoire, just me looking into these lines and just understanding the compensation for black in a lot of these lines, it's a useful skill in itself. So don't be afraid to basically have fun. If you feel these bizarre, wacky, ridiculous openings are something you enjoy, but then you're but it's not correct chess. Okay, I recently tried playing correct chess for the first time in my life, and I scored 0.5 out of 5 in the whole Congress. So it's you need to be in the right mindset, you need to be in the right mood for it. And of course, correct chess is going to be very beneficial and useful as well. But these lines should not be underrated as an exercise of study. So yeah, that's basically everything I have to say. But definitely give this opening a go if you like. If you have any cool games, just send it to me on Lichess at Ponziani Master. I'd love to see your games in the RIMDIM Indian. And I think we're going to surprise a lot of people. Hopefully, these default players don't catch on. But I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Now, it's almost 6 a.m. I really need to sleep. You can probably tell I'm losing it. But I've had a lot of fun. And I guess I will see you next time. Adios.